Okay, so let's start with the super quick revision of the next chapter, that is assessment and audit. Okay, we are going to divide the chapter into two parts. First part is basic assessment under GST, and the second part is two types of audits which will be done by the department under GST law. Yes, now we are going to deal with section number 59 to section number 66. Okay, section number 59 to section number 66, as you can see here, and all these sections are pertaining to the CGST law. 59 to 64. Okay, 59 to 64 is going to discuss about assessments, and 65 and 66 is going to talk about the audit procedure. Let's take one by one. Okay, now as we have already studied under returns chapter, that under GST, the concept of self-assessment is applicable. Okay, I'm starting with the first one, that is section number 59, which says that under GST, the concept of self-assessment is applicable. What do you mean by that? That whenever there is a registered person, okay, whenever there is a registered person who has got himself obviously registered under the GST law, this particular person is required to self-assess his liability. Okay, if I am registered, I will self-assess my liability. I will calculate the tax payable. I will determine by input tax credit. I will pay it, and I will file the returns. Okay, this is called as self-assessment. This is called as self-assessment under GST, which is given under section number 59. Right? Now, similarly, the self-assessment is applicable to every registered person. Okay. Now, next type of assessment which is applicable here is something called as provisional assessment. Okay, which is something important. Now, what do you mean by the term provisional assessment? Provisional means, can we say something before final? Okay, it is something before final. It is not final, but it is something before final. Now, let's say whenever there is a taxable person, okay, taxable person is a wider scope which includes a registered person and plus a person who is not registered but liable to be registered. Okay, so if a taxable person is not able to determine, okay, if he is not able to determine what is the value of the goods, if he is not able to do the valuation, or if he is not able to do the classification, because of which he is not able to come to know what is the rate of tax that is payable on supply of goods or services which is supplied by him. Okay, if he is not able to come to know about the value, or if he is not able to come to know about the rate of tax, then in such a case he will go and make an application to the proper officer. Okay, proper officer is such a person who has been given some functions by the commissioner. Okay, means commissioner will tell him that you are treated as proper officer, please do so and so function. He is also a proper officer from the hierarchy only, means from the GST department only. So we will go, if we are not sure about the value, if we are not sure about the rate of tax, we will go and make an application to the proper officer that, sir, please allow us to pay the taxes on provisional basis, and then we will give you the documents, we will give you all the information. Later you can do the final assessment, and then we can determine the final tax liability. Okay, example. As per me, there is a particular product on which there can be either 18% applicable or 28% applicable. So rationally, I will go and make an application to the proper officer that, sir, please allow me to pay the tax at the rate of 18%. Later, you do the final assessment, and if it comes to 28%, I will pay the differential tax and interest. Okay, this is what happens in case of provisional assessment. Okay, now what is going to happen here is, we went and made an application to the proper officer. Proper officer will consider my application. Okay, that is again filed electronically only, and then the proper officer may, okay, it may allow me to, yes, it can also call for further additional information, etc. from me, and then it may allow me that, okay, no problem, you pay the tax on provisional basis, and then we will do the final assessment. And then this order of allowing me to pay the taxes, this order has to be passed by the proper officer within a time period of 90 days. Means whenever we requested the proper officer, from that day, within a time period of 90 days, the order will be, the request has to be accepted by the proper officer. Then it will tell me, okay, pay on provisional basis, but it will tell me, please execute a bond where you are giving me a declaration that if there is any tax payable, then you will pay it later on along with interest due, and please furnish a security. Okay, please furnish a security in form of a bank guarantee. This can be told by the proper officer to the assessee or to that particular taxable person. Okay, now as of now I have paid the tax on provisional basis. I am doing the business on provisional basis. I am collecting the amount from my customers also on that particular rate only. Later on, in the meanwhile, the proper officer will do the final assessment and it will pass the final assessment order within a time period of 6 months from the date of communication of provisional assessment order. Means whenever I got, remember within 90 days I had got that provisional assessment order. From that day, within 6 months, the proper officer will pass the final assessment order. Okay, sometimes it can so happen that this 6 months is not sufficient. Okay, if this 6 months is not sufficient for the proper officer, then in that case, we can get a further extension of 6 months by JC or the AC, Joint Commissioner, or by the Additional Commissioner. And suppose if 6 months plus 6 months is also not sufficient, then we can take the permission. The proper officer can take the permission from the commissioner, and commissioner can extend it by another period of 4 years. Okay, and within this entire period, the final assessment order needs to be passed. Okay, now listen. Now, when the final assessment order is passed, can there be a possibility? Can there be a possibility that the rate of tax increased? That is, earlier we were paying at the rate of, provisionally we kept on paying at the rate of 18%. Now it is determined that it will be paid at the rate of 28%. So can we say for all the transactions done from that particular day, whatever is the differential tax, we will have to pay it to the government. Okay, tax, so we have to pay it to the government. Plus, can we say on that amount we have to pay the interest also. Okay, this interest is payable at the rate of 18% to the government. Okay, because we are paying, so we have to pay the highest rate. Okay, so we are going to pay it at the rate of 18%, but ma'am, from when? Okay, whatever. Now, let's say if that particular transaction pertained to the month of April. Okay, whatever was the due date for the month of payment of tax for April, that is 20th of February, 20th of May. For April, it is 20th of the next month. So, from 20th May means from that particular month's due date to which that transaction pertained to. So, from 20th May till the date now when I actually pay the differential tax to the government. For that particular period, I have to pay the interest to the government. Okay, and this interest is payable at the rate of 18% because earlier government allowed me to pay at lower rate. I paid at lower rate. Now government is telling that retrospectively that higher rate will be applicable. So interest will also be applicable retrospectively. Okay, on this particular thing, we have got a numerical question also in our question bank. Please do try that. Okay, now, so let's say fortunately it so happens that government says that okay, no, you have been paying tax at the rate of 18%, but actually in our final assessment order it has been determined that tax payable on this particular item is at the rate of 12% only. We have been paying at 18%, but now this is payable at the rate of 12% only. So can we say we have already collected more tax from the next person, from the consumer? So in that case, the tax will be refunded back to the person who had borne this extra tax. Okay, I just collected it and I paid it to the government, so I should not get the refund, but the person who had borne this extra tax, refund will be paid to that person, and this taxable person will get the interest on the same. Okay, interest on refund will be paid to this taxable person at the rate of 6%. Okay, this will be paid at the rate of 6%, but now listen, whenever we come to know that 12% is the rate applicable instead of 18%, so we will be very happy. Okay, now we will go and make an refund application to the government. Okay, when we go and make a refund application to the government, from that day, within 60 days, the government is supposed to refund it back to you. Okay, if government refunds you back within a period of 60 days, government is not required to pay any interest on that refund to you. Okay, if government does a delay beyond 60 days, then only the government is required to pay you interest on refund only at the rate of 6% from the 61st day. Yes, see, when it was interest payable by us, it was from retrospective effect. Okay, but when there is interest receivable on refund, okay, then the government has given itself 60 days time period that government will refund you within a time period of 60 days from the date of your refund application. If not done, then only from the next day meter is going to start. Okay, and if it is a case of refund, then whatever was the security, whatever was the bond that you had given to the officer earlier, now you will make an application that, sir, please release my bank guarantee, please release my security, because now all the dues have been clear. Are you understanding this? Yes, this was all about our provisional assessment and final assessment. Okay, next section which comes up here is section number 61, which talks about scrutiny of returns. Okay, this is a normal case. Scrutiny of returns is a normal case. That is, whenever a registered person, obviously, whenever a registered person has submitted any returns on the GST portal, then the proper officer can select some returns for the purpose of doing the scrutiny, checking, to verify whether the return is correct or not. Okay, if it is correct, no problem. Okay, if it is not correct, okay, or means if there is any discrepancy in the return which has been filed by this registered person, then this proper officer will issue a notice to the registered person that please give your explanation. हमें आपका जवाब का इंतजार रहेगा, ठीक है. प्लीज गिव योर एक्सप्लेनेशन विद इन अ टाइम पीरियड ऑफ 30 days from the date of serving of this notice, or with an extended time period if required. Please give the explanation on this particular discrepancy, and then within this 30 period the registered person is required to give the reply to the proper officer. What can be the possible reply? Either he will accept the discrepancy, then he will have to pay the differential tax, interest, penalty, late fee, whatever is applicable. Okay, or alternatively, he will not accept the discrepancy and he will give an explanation to the proper officer. If the explanation given back to the proper officer is satisfactory, then well and good, everything gets over there itself. If the explanation given to the proper officer is unsatisfactory, then in such a case, now the proper officer will say that we need to get into the detail. So the proper officer can conduct departmental audit under section 65, or it can conduct a special audit under section 66, or it can conduct inspection, inquiry, search, seizure. Okay, or finally it will proceed for recovery of tax and other dues under section 73 or 74. Are you clear with this? Yes, so this was happening in basic scrutiny. See, scrutiny is happening of the returns, means return has been submitted, and return can be submitted by whom? Return can be submitted by a registered person. So section is applicable to such a person. Right, now the next two sections, okay, that is section 62 and section 63, both of these sections are going to talk about best judgment assessment. Okay, best judgment assessment under section 62 and section number 63. Now section 62 talks about assessment of non-filers of return, means here again it is talking about a registered person. Okay, a registered person was there who was required to file his returns under section number 39, or he was required to, that is monthly return or quarterly return, or he was required to file a final return at the time of cancellation of registration, we had studied now, or he was required to file a final return under section 45, and that person, even after giving reminders, okay, that person has failed to furnish the return within the given time period. We had studied this in returns chapter. We will give him a notice to furnish the return within a time period of 15 days from the due date. Okay, if he does not file the return within this 15 days, then this person will be considered as defaulter. And what will the proper officer do? The proper officer, on the basis of whatever information is available with itself, it will take a decision to the best of his judgment, and it will pass the best judgment assessment order. That how much is the tax liability payable, how much is the interest payable, how much late fee, etc. is payable. Are you clear with this? Okay, and max to max, this assessment order, this best judgment assessment order for a particular year is to be filed within a time period of 5 years from the due date of filing the annual return of that financial year. Okay, let's talk about financial year 2021. Okay, for financial year 2021, let's say the due date for filing the annual return for that year is 31st December 21. So from 31st December 21 plus 5 years, that is the maximum time period within which the best judgment assessment order should be passed. Okay, suppose if the due date of filing the annual return was extended, then 5 years will be calculated from such extended due date. Yes, now this section says that, okay, no problem. Suppose if we have passed the best judgment assessment order on the registered person, and now within a period of 60 days, okay, within a period of 60 days of serving of this order, that person comes and says that I wish to file a valid return. Sir, I'm so sorry, I'm late, so I wish to file a valid return. So we will tell them, okay, no problem, you file a valid return within 60 days and we will withdraw the best judgment assessment order. Okay, this is not applicable under income tax law. This is applicable only under GST law, that if the return has been filed within 60 days from the date of serving the best judgment assessment order, then the order can be withdrawn. Order is withdrawn, okay, but tax liability etc. will remain as it is. That needs to be paid. Okay, but now let's say if he does not file within these 60 days, then we will give him one more last opportunity, that come and file within the next 60 days, but with additional late fee of 100 rupees for each day of default from the 61st day. Okay, for every one day, 100 rupees per day additional fee will be applicable, not for the first 60 days. After the first 60 days, again 60 days time period was given. For this particular period, 100 rupees additional late fee will be applicable. So basically 60 plus 60 days time period was given, and if he files a valid return within this 60 plus 60 days, then his order can be withdrawn. But again, the liability to pay the tax, interest, late fee, penalty, etc., that will remain as it. Are you clear with this? Okay, now see, generally what happens is, in case of this non-filer, okay, there is a mechanism which is set up under the GST law. Generally, just like we get income tax reminders now for filing the return etc., same way GST authorities or the GST law also facilitates sending system generated messages to the registered persons before the due date. Okay, 3 days before the due date, we will get a message. Okay, we will get a message that your due date is approaching. Please file the return. Okay, this is first reminder. Then after the due date is over, okay, after 5 days, also, once the due date is over, again a system generated mail and message will be sent to all the defaulters immediately after the due date, that the due date is gone and you have not furnished it. Okay, it goes to the authorized persons also, and it goes to the proprietor, partner, karta, etc. also. Okay, then after 5 days from the due date, you will get a final notice that please furnish the return within a time period of 15 days. Okay, now if you do not furnish this within a time period of 15 days, then the proper officer will go ahead and it will proceed ahead for the best judgment assessment. But again, 60 days plus 60 days time period will anyway be available to you for withdrawal of the best judgment assessment order. Are you clear with this? Okay, so this was applicable. This was given under section number 62. Okay, this was applicable only to the registered person who had not filed the return. Okay, the previous section, section 61, was applicable to the registered person who had filed the return and the return had gone for scrutiny. Okay, 62 is applicable to such persons who are registered but who never filed the returns at all. Okay. Then next section, that is section number 63. Section number 63 is talking about unregistered persons. Okay, means it is applicable to taxable persons. Now, a taxable person here means those persons who are not registered, okay, who are unregistered but who are liable to get themselves registered. Means maybe their threshold limit etc. has exceeded the limits given under the registration chapter, but still they have not got themselves registered. Okay, if they have not got themselves registered, assessment on them can be done under section 63 if there is any tax due from them. Okay, or if there is any particular person whose registration had got cancelled, okay, maybe because of default in filing the returns or non-filing the returns, or maybe because they had contravened any provisions of the law, or they had taken voluntary registrations but they could not commence any business within a time period of 6 months etc. But now there is some tax due from them. Okay, their registration is cancelled but tax is due from them. So in that case, the proper officer can again issue a notice to them on the grounds that so and so amount, because of so and so reasons, tax is due from them. So please furnish a reply within a time period of 15 days. And after giving them a reasonable opportunity of being heard, if we are not satisfied with the reply that they have given, then we can proceed ahead for best judgment assessment order. And again, this best judgment assessment order can be passed within a time period of 5 years from the due date of filing the annual return. Okay, but this best judgment assessment order cannot be withdrawn. Remember, the earlier best judgment assessment order for non-filing of returns, that was withdrawn if the return is filed, if a valid return is filed within 60 days plus 60 days. But in this particular case, it cannot be withdrawn. Once passed, it is passed. Are you clear with this? Yes. Then going on to the last section of assessment. Okay, audit is left. Going on to the last section, that is section number 64, which is talking about summary assessment. Okay, very simple section, but nice section. Okay, now what happens in case of summary assessment? If the proper officer has got some reasons to believe with him that there is some tax liability due from a person. Okay, there is some tax liability which is due from a person, and we should not do a delay in passing the assessment order in respect of such a person. Okay, if we do a delay in passing the assessment order for this particular person, then maybe it will be adverse for the revenue. Okay, it will be adverse for the interest of the revenue. Maybe because we have got some information that this person is going to run away from the country, or maybe this particular person is going to declare his insolvency, or this person is going to express his inability to pay the tax dues. So proper officer is of the opinion that, sir, we should not, it is going and telling to the additional commissioner or to the joint commissioner that, sir, we should not do a delay in passing the assessment order in case of this particular person, otherwise it will not be good for the revenue. Okay, it will not be good for the department, and therefore, sir, a proper officer will tell to the additional commissioner or to the joint commissioner that, sir, we should do this assessment in a summary manner and in a faster manner, and such type of assessment is called as a summary assessment, and we should upload the assessment order immediately on the GST portal of this particular person. Okay, so this can be done by the proper officer, but only after taking the prior approval of the additional commissioner or the joint commissioner. Are you clear with this? This we have done only to safeguard the interest of the revenue. Okay, but now in two cases, this summary assessment order can be withdrawn. Okay, if that taxable person, okay, whom we were fearing that maybe he can run from the country, etc., if he comes and makes an application to the AC or to the JC and tells that, sir, what, this much trust only you had on me, why did you even pass a summary assessment order? I am not going to go anywhere, I am not going to declare insolvency, I am going to pay my tax dues. Okay, if such person goes and makes an application to the AC or JC, and AC, within a time period of 30 days of receipt of the summary assessment order, and if AC or JC is satisfied that, okay, we should not have passed this, or if the AC or JC is of the opinion that we have passed it erroneously, we should not have done it, and we should proceed for recovery proceedings under section 73 or 74, and we should not do it summary wise or as per the summary assessment order, then in that case this summary assessment order can be withdrawn. Okay, remember, best judgment assessment in case of non-filers of return can also be withdrawn. Okay, and similarly, summary assessment order passed by the proper officer after taking the permission of ACJC can also be withdrawn. Yes, and one important point here is this summary assessment order can be passed on any taxable person, and if the taxable person is not ascertainable, then it can even be passed on deemed taxable person. That is, suppose if the goods are under transit, or let's say if the goods are stored in a warehouse where it is becoming difficult to determine who is the taxable person, then in that case, whoever is in charge of the goods, on that person also you can pass the summary assessment order. Are you clear with this? Yes, this was all about your assessment. Okay, now let's go to the last part of the chapter. Only two sections, that is section number 65 and section number 66. Section number 65 talks about audit by tax authorities. Basically, it is an internal audit or a departmental audit which is done by the department. So this audit can be done by whom? This audit can be done by the commissioner or any officer which has been authorized by the commissioner. This audit is basically done, let's say if there is any, remember we had done a point where there is any discrepancy found while doing the scrutiny, etc., and the registered person is not able to give a proper explanation, or we are not satisfied, then in that case we can get the departmental audit conducted in case of such person. Okay, now this audit can either be done at the premises of that person, or we can call with all the records, accounts, etc., to the GST office also. Okay, and the good part about this audit is this audit can be done for a particular period, okay, for half a financial year, for quarter of a financial year, for the entire financial year, for multiple financial years. There is no problem in that. Okay, when we talk about income tax audits, etc., it is done for a particular assessment year. Okay, but this audit under GST can be done for any particular period. Okay, and this audit is not a surprise audit. Okay, it is not at all a surprise audit. Means the proper officer will inform to the person that audit will be done after a period of 15 days. Means 15 days in advance we have to inform to that person that audit is going to be conducted. Are you clear with this? And once the audit commences, okay, once the audit commences, it should get over within a time period of 3 months, plus this period can be extended by another period of 6 months if required by the commissioner. Okay, 3 months time period. 3 months time period will start from when? Okay, either when we submit the records, accounts, etc. for the purpose of audit to them, to the authority, to the commissioner, or when they actually come to our premises for conducting the audit, whichever is later. Okay, so basically when they are full-fledgedly ready for commencing the audit, that is the day when the audit commences, and from that day 3 months time period will be calculated, and if there is a sufficient cause, this time period can be extended by another period of 6 months. And if they come for audit, then it is our responsibility to cooperate with them, to provide the necessary information and to provide whatever books, documents, records, etc. they ask for it. Yes. Okay, and now suppose if now once the audit is completed, okay, once the audit is concluded, then the report will be ready with the commissioner, okay, so, or the proper officer. Then the proper officer will within 30 days inform the registered person that these are the outcomes of the audit, these are the discrepancies which have been found, this is the tax payable, so please pay the tax payable. Okay, and if they pay the tax payable, very good, everything gets closed. If they do not pay the tax payable, then the recovery proceedings under section 73 or 74 is going to start. Are you clear with this? Okay, so this was a normal departmental audit which was conducted by the officer, by the commissioner, or by any officer authorized by the commissioner, right? And last case is special audit. Okay, special audit which is conducted on the directions of the commissioner, but it is actually conducted by the chartered accountant or a cost accountant. This is a special audit. Now, if suppose during scrutiny, or if let's say during inspection, inquiry, investigation, etc., any officer who is not below the rank of assistant commissioner, okay, at least he is of the level of assistant commissioner, if he has, okay, if he is of the opinion, considering the nature of the case or considering the complexity of the case, if this person, and if he thinks that it is in the interest of the revenue that we should get the special audit done, okay, and if that person is of the opinion that value is not declared correctly, or the credit ITC that has been availed is not within the limits, okay, and it is impacting the revenue of the department, or it is impacting the interest of the revenue, then in such a case, he will take, the proper officer will take the permission from the commissioner, and then it can direct a chartered accountant and or it can direct a cost accountant who is nominated by the commissioner, okay, to conduct the special audit and submit the report to the commissioner. Are you clear with this? Yes. And this audit will be conducted by the chartered accountant or by the cost accountant. Time limit for conducting this particular audit is 90 days. Okay, plus in certain circumstances, it can be further extended by another period of 90 days. Since this audit was ordered by the ordered by the department, then all the expenses of that CA, all the audit expenses, etc., will be paid by the commissioner. And yes, once a special audit is completed, then the report will be prepared. Okay, report will be prepared. We will give ROBH to that particular registered person. We will tell him that so and so are the findings of the audit report. Please pay the tax which is shortly paid, or the refund, if we had given you any refund erroneously, please pay it back to the department. If you are not going to do, then only we are going to start with the recovery proceedings under section 73 or 74. Are you clear with this? Yes. And then at the end of the chapter, just for your reference, I have given you the hierarchy of ministry and GST officers, and I have given you a full-fledged summary, okay, of all the types of provision assessment, which officer is going to do, what is the time period for doing, and what are the extension provisions. Okay, this I have given you for each and every type of assessment and audit which we have discussed in the chapter, which you can use for your last day revision. I hope you are very clear with this. Yes, simple chapter, just revise it quickly once and you'll be done.